one.
Buenos noches, amigos, and welcome to another episode of Not Another Sox podcast. I am Jack Webster here with Matt Galvale and Matt LeBeau. Fellas, we are still locked out, so we got a little special episode for all you guys today.
Yes, we are still locked out, but I think this is going to be a pretty exciting episode. Highlighting a great member of Red Sox Nation, a beloved member of Red Sox Nation in Don Orsillo. Big tribute to him coming up this episode. Going to talk about his entire career here with the Red Sox, and just kind of highlighting some of the great moments that he brought to Red Sox fans for a number of years. So I'm definitely pretty pumped for this one. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is definitely one we've been talking about for a while. Glad to finally get something going, get the ball rolling on the Dio episode. Obviously, he was like the voice of my childhood and an inspiration for so many people who, not just followed the Red Sox, but baseball in general. So very, very excited. We're going to have some clips, some of our favorite moments, dive deep into the career of Don Orsillo in Boston. So very excited.
No, I mean, we actually had to, sit down and organize what we wanted to talk about here because there was just so many topics. We probably could have gone on for hours and hours,
right.
Just with this episode here. So, we touch upon, some of the bigger memories that probably a lot of you guys share with us and some of the unique ones for us. But we hope to, hear from you guys, the listeners afterwards, share your stories. We're always down to listen to them and share them online. So, I think this episode is going to be really exciting for, all of us to do. It's something we've wanted to do for a little while here. And we hope, we can pay tribute to who we all think is the best Red Sox announcer in the team's history.
Oh, yep. Exactly. For sure. He's a legend. He's the GOAT of Red Sox, of the, Red Sox broadcasting for sure. So, I guess we can kind of get right into it. LeBeau, I think you're going to kick us off here.
Yeah. So starting off, obviously, Don was the Red Sox announcer from 2000 to 2015. So 15-year career with the Boston Red Sox. People do forget, though, he was the Paw Sox announcer before that. So, kind of a Rhode Island guy through and through. He really lived the dream of every kid, which is, to get called up to the big club. He got the big promotion going from the Paw Sox to the Boston Red Sox. Probably one of the most coveted jobs in all of sports, which is to be the play-by-play announcer for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. He had a special tie to, like I said, everyone that aspired to be in baseball media or, just a play-by-play announcer or get their foot in the door. But I had a special connection to him because he was actually from my hometown. So he lived in Smithfield, Rhode Island, which is where I grew up. I used to see him all around town. So he was like I said, he was a voice of my childhood. And then, I would leave my house and then I would see him whatever at a restaurant, fucking Applebee's, or one of my buddies worked at KFC, and he said that Don would come to KFC frequently.
Huge chicken guy.
Yeah, guy loved the fucking chicken. Love the famous bowl. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, I think that when you get into the business, right? Everyone's, if you're working in the AHL or AAA and you're announcing, everyone dreams of taking that next step to the big club, and it's for him, it was a reality, which is so rare. Because the Red Sox could have went out and found someone from ESPN, CBS, Fox, and thrown $1 million at him, but instead they went with Dio, and he had a very, very, very good career with the Red Sox. So,
I mean, you were kind of saying about it, like it's every kid's dream to either call games for the Red Sox or play for them, really. And I mean, there's 25 guys that get to play for the Red Sox, but there's only 2 or 3 guys that actually get to call the games. So. I mean, I think, it's something that so many people aspire to be, and it takes such a special person to actually, kind of broadcast 150, 160 some odd games per year. And I mean, all of us grew up on Don Orsillo. He was the voice of our childhoods. I didn't even really start to be able to watch NESN out of market until probably about 2007, 2008 when MLB TV became a little popular. So for a large section of Red Sox fans, like growing up, he was all that we knew.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, LeBeau, I mean, he started in the minors, worked his way up to Boston. So like you were mentioning too, they could have gotten, he was really, it's grit. It's really a story of grit. He worked his way up from the minor leagues. We've all worked in minor league sports, so we kind of know what that's like as well. But he worked his way up from the minors, got to Boston, from McCoy Stadium all the way up to Fenway in Boston. That's it's a great story of working his way up there, and then not only being the voice of the Red Sox, but being somebody that being beloved and being a guy that so many people looked up to. Everybody tuned in because they loved Don Orsillo. So it's one thing to call the games, but it's another thing to call the games and then be somebody that everybody in Boston loved. They loved tuning into the Red Sox because of their love for the team, but also for their love of Don Orsillo as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when Don retired, and I was listening to, it was at WEI when he announced that he was retiring, and they played a clip on WEI of it was like Don's like first week, and it was Jerry Callahan calling him Don Borsillo, like just saying how incredibly boring he was. And it was like he even mentioned, he was like, I was so wrong about him, because he ended up being the most exciting announcer in Red Sox history. Just an unbelievably exciting announcer, brought such passion and such energy with every big moment. Really just an amazing career, but certainly not boring, and certainly not Don Borsillo. That's for sure.
I mean, we can name somebody else that's boring.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. Don't you
Yeah.
worry.
But yeah, I mean, what a career for him. So many things. I mean, you talk about the calls, LeBeau, and not being a boring guy. I mean, you could play a million of his calls, and like they're always just so perfect. I don't really remember a bad call that was made by Don Orsillo. Like it's just he just knew what to say and what to do when big moments happened. And that was him.
And I feel like if he ever did have, maybe not his best call, he would make it funny. They would have fun with it in the booth.
Right.
And that was just kind of the nature of things. And, you saw that with like so many moments just throughout their entire career with Jerry Remy or whoever he was with. So, I mean, like I said, we had to, cut some of these down and actually say what we wanted to talk about, or else we could just go on all day about it.
I mean,
Sure.
This could literally be like a 3 or 4 hour podcast if we really wanted it to be that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to go off of that it's unbelievable, and that's the career that he had, and that's he's got millions and millions of things that we could have talked about. But I guess we'll get into some of his bigger moments. We'll start off with the pretty funny one. I think it's one of everyone's favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's the pizza gate, the throwing of the pizza. I think that was back in 2007 on Patriots Day. And what happened was in the middle of a game there, one fan threw a slice of pizza at another fan, pepperoni pizza. Caught him right in the back, hit him right in the jacket. He's got the sauce and the cheese splattered on his back, and you just see, Remy and Orsillo. NESN's got the replay going, and they're just looking back at it, and you see the guy toss a slice of pizza, hits the other guy in the back, and Orsillo's just like, "Here comes the pizza."
Yeah,
It's like his voice is like squeaking. Yep. It's like,
"Here comes the pizza,"
and that's just, I mean, him and Remy. We're just having such a great time, with that whole interaction. There was, it was such a bizarre thing to see. Like, I had never really seen anything like that before. It was a bizarre thing to happen, and they made it, that was funny in itself, what happened. But then, Remy and Orsillo just going back and forth and like, here comes the pizza, and like just analyzing that. And then Remy was like, well, that's an expensive slice of pizza. And then it's just like that whole interaction between the two of them was just unbelievable. It was one of their funnier moments, definitely, in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly probably the most famous one. Like, even non-Red Sox fans know about that clip because of Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy. And I love how, like, they actually break it down almost like it was something that happened during the game. Like,
Right.
This became more important than the game at that point. Nobody cared about the score. Nobody cares about the final now. All that they care about is some random dude threw pizza at another guy, and that you're going to remember it because of how funny of a moment that they made it.
Yeah. And like you said, Galveo, it was already a funny moment, but the way they broke it down, and like you said, Jack, it became more important than the game. And just Don's narration of the actual pizza throw, and then you got Jerry Remy. For one, he can't pronounce he couldn't pronounce the A's.
Yeah.
So he would say he would call it pizza.
Yeah.
And that, who buys a slice of pizza and then throws it at another guy? And it really was just absolutely hilarious. And like you said, Jack, definitely the most famous of the moments. And I mean, one of the most comedic moments in sports broadcast history. I don't care what anyone says. You can absolutely make that argument.
You don't have to like sports to like that clip. Any human being with a sense of humor can find pleasure in that clip, not only based on what happened, but just the way that they enjoyed it right there in the moment.
Yeah, sometimes if I need a good laugh, I'll just go back and watch that, even though I've seen it, millions of times already. And one of the parts I do like about that whole clip is like Orsillo and Remy are just talking, and they're just like, well, what do you think this guy said to his wife as he was leaving for the ballpark today? And he's just like, yeah, honey, I'm gonna buy a slice of pizza at the ballpark, and I'm gonna throw it at another man. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
I think he was trying to throw it at the left fielder for whatever team it was, and I think that dude just kind of got in the way. That's my theory, but it is so much funnier to think that he just threw it at a fan for trying to catch a foul ball.
Yeah.
Also, that guy had an unreal arm, dude, to throw that pizza.
Yeah, it was accurate.
Good throw. That pizza's thin. It's not very throwable.
Yeah. It's like a kite. It's gonna get caught in the wind. It's gonna flail away.
Especially that was like a rainy Patriots Day game.
It was.
It
was a rainy Patriots
April,
Day.
50-degree weather too. It's almost like football weather, but just in those early April, sometimes even early May games there.
Yep. No, yeah. No, that was an elite throw for sure.
But I mean, the other half of it, and we had our Jerry Remy episode here today, but just was the chemistry between those two guys. It was just unmatched. These were actual friends, and I mean. You see it in so many moments, but one of my favorite ones was when Jerry Remy's tooth fell out, and Don attempted to put it back in with a pair of pliers mid-game. And, same type of thing. This became more important than the game itself. He might have just thrown in a 2-1 fastball down the middle there, but everybody's focus was on him trying to put that tooth back in and how much fun they were having with it.
Yeah, that clip was so funny. When you think about it, it's just all of a sudden mid-game, Jerry Remy's tooth falls out and he's got it. And I think Orsillo looks over at him. He's like, "Is that your tooth?" What?
Yeah, play the clip.
Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely play the clip here. But I mean, it was hilarious because he's got his tooth and then he's telling him "Oh, do you have pliers and something to just jam it in there?" He's like, "Do you have glue or duct tape?" It's hilarious.
Yeah, Don, he doubled as the man of many personalities. He was a chef. He was a dentist on the show. He offered Jerry a lot of advice when it came to wardrobe, and Jerry was able to offer him advice about how to sit in a hotel lobby for 4 hours and drink coffee. And that was one of the jokes that they always had with each other. But yeah, the tooth was absolutely hilarious, as you now know. I mean, we play the clip. It's it really is one of the best moments, and it's funnier to watch, like you're listening to it, but definitely if you're not watching on YouTube, definitely go watch it. I don't know actually if we can even play it on YouTube, but definitely go watch it on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It's absolutely unbelievable.
And I love it too, because like Orsillo's like asking for the light. He's about to perform dental work on Jerry Remy. Like he was all about it. Like, this was gonna happen. He was just like focused. He was like, this is gonna happen. I am gonna put Jerry Remy's tooth back into his mouth.
This is medical advice. If somebody's tooth falls out, you should put it back in immediately. Don't seek any professional help. Just any friend with a pair of pliers can do it for you. This is medical advice.
That is medical advice. Yep.
Yes. Duct tape, whatever you can, glue, Gorilla Glue, anything you can find.
Yep.
Just spit on it and stick it back in.
Right. Exactly. And I love how Orsillo also in that clip that we played here. I love how he just asks him, he's like, do you have like a case to put that tooth in? Or then Remy's just like, no, I'm just going to put it in my pocket. I'll just go to the dentist tomorrow and just get that done. Just, it's so funny. Great moments.
That's
Great
absolutely.
moments.
Imagine being Jerry Remy's dentist and him being like, oh, I lost a tooth. The guy would be like, well, yeah, I know. We saw on television that you lost a tooth.
It has 1 million views right here.
Yeah.
So, just a side note, this tooth, or one of my front teeth here, is half fake. And what you're supposed to do if a tooth falls out, you're supposed to put it in milk because it helps preserve it more than like water, just leaving it out. So fun tip, this might help out one person here, and this is what this podcast is about.
That is medical advice. We're not really a Red Sox or baseball podcast. This is mostly a medical podcast. Dentistry, medical work, whatever you have, really.
Whatever you got, throw it our way. We will give you advice for it, and you can try and sue us if it's not correct advice.
Right.
Please.
Sue us with what money?
Yeah.
LeBeau is the doctor of the podcast.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly.
The doctor is in.
The doctor is in. Dr. LeBeau to the rescue.
Yep.
MD, really.
Yep. MD. Massive.
We know. Sick brag.
I wish. I have a baby penis.
I did not see the podcast getting to this point already. Maybe later on, but we're on like our third bullet point.
And that brings us, I guess, to our next one, which is the mouse scare, which is another hilarious Don Orsillo moment. Because I think this was pregame. He may have been recording like a hit piece right before that they were going to play later on, or might have been actually right before pregame, where Don Orsillo's in the Nesson booth at Fenway, and they have this fake mouse that comes across, and Orsillo's like, he's just like standing there, and then he's like, whoa, like what is that? Like he's actually scared. He's like jumping up. It's like hilarious. He's like, whoa, that is a mouse. And then
So everybody else is in on it, and you just hear Jerry Remy go, mouse, and you just see this little wind-up toy like heading towards him, clearly not an actual mouse. And like, I swear, like if you watch the video, it almost looks like he's about to fall out of the Fenway booth and just die. Like they kept those windows open and they were just like leaning right against it. Yeah, exactly. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that he is legitimately scared of this mouse that's just on the counter there, which is not an appropriate reaction to just a normal mouse if you're not a 14-year-old girl. But
yeah, he literally like leaped into Jerry, and he literally shrieked in fear of, like you said, a mouse that a grown man should just not be that scared of a mouse. Let's be honest. But there is mice at Fenway and there is rats. This is actually a fun fact into segue into this fun fact. The reason they got Carlton Fisk's celebration where he was trying to wave the ball foul is because a rat ran by the cameraman and he got scared, so he didn't move the camera to follow the ball in left field. So he kept it on Carlton Fisk accidentally, and that's how he got the So there is mice. So Don's like probably thinking like there are rats here, there are mice here. It's Fenway Park. This place was built in 1912. So like, that's very plausible. Yeah, in a swamp.
There's swamp rats here.
Yeah, like that's very plausible for there to be a mouse there. So I can understand him thinking it was real, but I can't understand him being that scared of it. Still, nonetheless, absolutely hilarious.
No, and I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but like that is something that can only happen between two people with like true chemistry between them. You can't do that with just like two national broadcasts or really even most local broadcasts because it just wouldn't feel the same. It would just feel like a normal prank as opposed to something that you bring up at the Christmas party every year, 15 years later.
Yeah, you can't do that with Matt Vasgersian and A-Rod.
No. A-Rod is the fucking rat.
He is. Exactly.
Matt, every time Matt Vasgersian looks to his left, he does that. Oh my God.
It's a rat.
That's actually why they started doing it remote. It wasn't because of the pandemic or anything. It was just so Matt Vasgersian would stop screaming.
And I think Dio would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep, he would. No, he would.
Now the job's open for the ESPN Sunday night gig. If Don, if you're listening, you should try to get it because they would just make our lives better, especially for those 4-hour-long Red Sox games.
God, yeah.
Yep.
Imagine listening to, I think people would, I don't know how many people, obviously because he's a local guy and then he went to San Diego, but like I don't know, I mean I'm sure everyone knows him. Obviously he does games on TBS as well. But I mean people would love that. Those ESPN ratings would be unbelievable if they got Don Orsillo there for sure.
Yeah. Who is the guy that was he was the Blue Jays announcer? What was his name?
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. He still does some of the non-Sunday night games.
Okay. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's a Blue Jays guy. He's pretty good. I don't remember his name. He's no Brian Anderson, but Brian Anderson, the absolute GOAT. He's the best in the league right now, in my opinion. Anyways, I know we've done a lot of like, the funny moments, but one of the things that I definitely wanted to bring up was if there's one player that like defines Orsillo's career and that kind of they go hand in hand, it's David Ortiz. The calls that he had for Ortiz, obviously, whether it be 2000th career hit, 400th career home run, he called his 500th career home run, right?
In Tampa Bay.
That was Tampa. Yep. All the milestones he was there for, but most importantly, not just the career milestones, but the walk-offs. If you go back and listen to those calls, and we'll play some of those calls are absolutely electric, and really like it's Orsillo at his peak, it's Ortiz at his peak. It's the culmination. If you're a Red Sox fan and you grew up watching the Red Sox in that time period, you were born in the 90s. Those two guys really defined you being a Red Sox fan. Don Orsillo, David Ortiz, which also they have the same initials. So Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it's
all adding up.
The David Ortiz calls, but specifically the walk-offs, just absolute world class.
Yeah, he's got the one that
like,
will.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, go ahead.
Don't let it happen again. No, the one that you were talking about, LeBeau too, and when I was watching some DL highlights, but before, was the one that he's like, oh, and he sends Fenway into a frenzy, And it's like that's such an iconic it's such an iconic call.
Yep.
And like we mentioned before earlier on, I mean, he just doesn't miss. And that's Don Orsillo. His calls are some of the best in baseball history, and that's just one of them. His calls are unmatched.
And it makes watching those David Ortiz career highlights or Manny Ramirez career highlights that much more enjoyable, because it honestly felt like, almost like a family member experiencing that same joy with you in the room. Yeah. He was, especially for some of those like late season heroics and the walk-off home runs, he was just excited as the person watching or the fans in the stands. So it really did, add on not only to it during the moment, but like looking back, it makes it that much more meaningful for just about everybody watching.
Yep. If you, had a dollar for every time you heard Don Orsillo say, and the Red Sox walk off with a win, like that would, you'd be rich like that. There were so many big walk-off moments. There were so many moments that he got to call, and he nailed every single one of them, not just from Ortiz, but from, so many different players that had walk-off hits in big spots. The only thing that's just a shame is that, with the MLB playoffs, there's obviously no regional sports networks that get to have, any playoff games. So you can't have Orsillo calling a Red Sox playoff game. He can still call, an LDS or an LCS game, but it has to be a non-Red Sox game, which that sucks. So you don't have those same moments. Nonetheless, though, still plenty of regular season moments from 2000 or 2001 to 2015 where, he was able to show that he is the most exciting announcer in baseball.
It really does give you chills when you go back and listen to some of these calls that he's had. It's amazing, when you go back in time from, way back when he first started up until 2015 when he, when he left. You can pick a number of calls, and it really it gives you chills. It really does, and goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm getting goosies. I am.
Oh yeah, just walk down memory lane.
Yep.
And like you mentioned, Jack, as well, with it being like almost like one of your family members, like being excited, when he had all those Ortiz walk-offs and everything else. That goes to show, like you had said before, the relationship that he really did have with a lot of these Red Sox players and managers, throughout his years as a broadcaster.
Yeah, no, my favorite player growing up was Dustin Pedroia, and probably he had the closest relationship with Pedroia, I felt like, out of any of the players, where specifically Pedroia would, call him out on home run calls and, kind of especially with the like La Luna ones in that 2000, I think it was the 2010 season where that started to come around, and it really just became part of the team really at that point. When you're actually, interacting and not affecting the games, but, being able to kind of be a part of the game itself as well.
La Luna. Yeah. PD definitely, obviously they had a very like funny kind of hazing relationship. I think that trio of like him, Pedroia, and Tito, like they were all like, I don't know, they were basically all just carbon copies of each other in their own respective jobs. Like Terry Francona was the manager form of Dustin Pedroia. Dustin Pedroia was the player form of Terry Francona. Don Orsillo was the announcer form of both of those guys.
Yeah.
Really, like they just had a long friendship. And touching on the relationship with the players and the managers in the in when Francona was managing Cleveland, he actually flicks off Orsillo because he has the Nesson feed. I don't know if you can look up that clip, but he literally is like scratching his face with the middle finger, and he's literally just flicking off Orsillo, and Orsillo starts laughing on the broadcast while just flicking him off. Like that's, you don't see that kind of relationship between like a manager and a play-by-play guy. You would usually, the managers hate the media guys, and the media guys are just trying to beat down their door. And it's like it was not the case at all. He had such a good relationship with those guys, and I don't think you're ever gonna see that again. Imagine like, Alex Cora flicking off Dave O'Brien, like he would probably actually legit.
He probably wants to, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll get to that later on too. We'll save all of that hoopla for the end.
Yeah,
he definitely wants to.
But, no, I mean, and not only that, it was just about every player. One of my favorite clips, which I didn't even find until we started searching for it, and Don posted this on his Twitter, but he hosted a fantasy football draft for some of the players in 2008, I believe it was. And he's talking about, how great it went and, how much fun he had. And literally every single player was just absolutely ripping on him, like Jonathan Papelbon, Alex Cora, Casey not Casey Kelly. Why am I blanking on the name right now? Sean Casey. Yeah, Sean Casey. They're all just absolutely ripping on this dude. And that's something that you only do with someone that can kind of take it and laugh about it at the end of the day. Like you can't do that to somebody who's overly sensitive about themselves.
Right. Exactly. And that's just kind of what like LeBeau was saying is like you don't really get that with like managers and media guys or even players. Players might be even worse. Like I feel like managers don't like media guys, but players probably even more because you get a lot of those guys that just like harp on these guys and they're just like on their backs like 24/7, with the criticism and all that. And that's just, something that only Don Orsillo could do. And like you mentioned, Jack, he had a great relationship with those guys, and that's why they were able to do that. But it's great. And that's a great clip as well, because those guys were giving it to him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, do you realistically think that, and I'm not saying that this was the, 100% that it was Don Orsillo was the one that would have put a stop to this. But do you think David Price and Eckersley would have had the beef if Orsillo was still around? Like, I just felt like he was the glue and he kind of kept the peace. I mean, like I just don't feel like there was ever really like any tense moments between the media, or at least like the Nesson media and the Red Sox. Yeah, like I don't know. He just seemed like Orsillo was very pro Red Sox, very pro player, very pro manager. So he was like a Red Sox fan in the booth, just calling the games, and that was shown. So definitely, you definitely don't.
He's kind of he kind of strikes me as like the voice of reason guy, like you mentioned, LeBeau, like just a glue guy, tries to keep everything, locker room guy, just tries to keep things loose, keep 100%. Things fun. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, in his tenure with the Red Sox, I don't think they really had beef with like any of the Nesson, media members at all. At least I don't remember.
Or if it did happen, it happened behind closed doors in a respectable manner. I'm sure there was probably one or two times where, a player came up to Don Orsillo was like, hey, like, I don't appreciate what you said about me. I don't appreciate what you said about my teammate, which is kind of what happened with that whole thing with David Price and Dennis Eckersley. It wasn't actually David Price who called him out. It was actually Dustin Pedroia. People forget that. And then, I mean, and that became like a whole thing, especially right after, Don left. So you kind of saw that immediate change after. But, again, we'll get to that closer to the end.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to, talking about, his calls earlier with Ortiz, one of the big ones here, was Daniel Nava in that 2013 season, that walk-off home run against the Royals, right after the marathon bombing, obviously very tense moments in Boston. The city was going through a lot at the time, right after the marathon events. And, Nava, gets that walk-off home run, and then you just get the call, this is for you, Boston. And then it's like, that's one that definitely, when you watch it now, that definitely does give you chills for sure. That's just an unbelievable moment by Don Orsillo.
Yeah, that's a goosebump factory for sure. I don't Actually, I know we wrote in walk off. I do want to mention. I don't think it
Right.
was a walk off.
It was the eighth inning. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was.
Yeah, I shouldn't have written walk.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I just wanted
That's all
to,
right.
just anyone, if anyone was listening,
Right.
and like we're trying to look for it, and they typed in, novel walk off, then,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, just such a big moment in Red Sox history, in Boston history. When you look back on it, really just one of the toughest days that this region has had in many years. And for Orsillo just to have the poise and to kind of be bold enough to make a call like that. Like you don't at that point, right? If you're in the booth, you don't want to make it like about a tragedy where people just died. So you got to toe a fine line, but he did it perfectly. And it's not. It was done very, very well. It was perfect.
Right.
And I think what he did great right after that, and he tweeted about it not too long ago either. But after the Boston "This Is For You," he didn't say anything. He let the moment become itself. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about Daniel Nava. It wasn't even about the game. It was about the city and everything that happened for the entire week before. All that emotion, David Ortiz saying this is our fucking city beforehand. Like, it was just such a perfect buildup to really a climax of almost a movie there. And then to, have him not fumble the bag at all with it, just absolutely perfect call that kind of summed up how everybody was feeling at the time and just let people enjoy it. I mean, that's an all-time pro broadcast job right there that nobody's ever going to forget.
I'm really glad that you brought that up specifically because Orsillo and Remy, one of the things that made them so good was they had such a good ability to let it breathe. It's a very popular broadcast term where, you announce what happened, but then you let the viewer take in what happened with the crowd energy, the player energy, and Orsillo and Remy both were very good at the whole like let it breathe approach to announcing, where Orsillo would announce what happened, then there would be a pretty long pause, and then Remy would come in, which was really just made the moment so much more dramatic, made it so much better, so much more enjoyable if you're watching at home. And so that was very important. I'm really glad you brought that up.
No, I mean, it still gives me chills to think about here. And I mean, not to mention what the team went on to do the rest of that season, winning the championship, and even having him like talk at the parade beforehand. It was really, he was part of that moment as much as anybody on the team or anybody in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but that does kind of leave us here to the end of his tenure at the Red Sox in 2015. I think, a lot of people were kind of caught off guard with it. But, at the end of that 2015 season, he had a very heartfelt send off to the fans watching on Nesson there. They had a small tribute to, some of the moments there, like the Pizzagate and the mouse scare and everything. But he was able to, collect his thoughts for a little bit, write them all down and express how it was to have the honor of being the Red Sox play-by-play announcer for 15 years through 3 championship seasons. And, kind of like we were saying before, how much the city itself meant to him and his family, and, how much love that he felt back from everybody as well.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you could really, I mean, in that whole tribute, you can really tell how much it meant for him to, be with the Red Sox and, for those 15 years, to be the voice of the Red Sox. He was going through those memories, his relationship with Jerry Remy as well. And, he was getting choked up, and it really shows, how much it meant for him, to hold that position, as the Red Sox broadcaster, as the play-by-play guy, the voice of the team, to hold that position for those number of years. It meant a lot to him, and it was definitely very heartfelt, and you could tell it really sucked for him to have to leave like that. So,
yeah, absolutely, it did. It was obviously tough. It was obviously unexpected, but the guy had a very long career a 15-year career as the voice of the Boston Red Sox, an unbelievable Hall of Fame worthy career. It's just so crazy. Like, there are guys that will do what Don did for 45 years, triple the amount of time, and won't get the send off from players that Orsillo did. And that kind of goes back to just his relationship with the players. They all came out of the dugout, gave him a standing ovation, waved to him. He waved back. I mean, you just don't really you don't really see that. Like,
No.
I mean, pick one play-by-play announcer in your head, whether it's, Mike Gorman, or whether it's, anyone. You think of anyone, whether it's in New England or outside of New England. I don't really think that the players in that organization will go out of their way to acknowledge the play-by-play announcer. I mean, he got like a Vin Scully level tribute, and it was so deserved. And that just goes to show the respect and the kind of guy he was. He wasn't just a great announcer, but he, the character level. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that send-off was honestly really cool. It's a shame it couldn't have, his last game wasn't at Fenway, where, the players could have come out and had more people realize what's going on. I'm sure, probably most of those Cleveland fans were like, the Red Sox just lost 3-1. The season's over. Why are they, all waving their hats, walking out of the dugout here after, 3-1 anticlimactic loss? Like, it was so appropriate, and I mean, who cares about Cleveland anyways? So it was really cool to see, and I think that you could tell that's what really meant a lot to him. And I'm so surprised he didn't tear up during that. You could see Jerry Remy tearing up, but like, he was able to just keep his composure. And I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of different feelings that was just going through his mind at the time.
Yeah, and he did get choked up, but he never like cried, but he definitely did get a little choked up.
No, and like you mentioned, Jack, Jerry Remy definitely did, and they had such a great relationship, and that's you saw that in that whole farewell video. When you watch it on YouTube, and even when you listen to it, you can hear that. They were tight. They were very tight. They were close, and it was a very definitely a touching day, and a very emotional day for the two of them, and for Red Sox fans.
Yeah, it was. And sorry, Jack, go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, in a season that was very forgettable too, that was honestly probably the highlight of the 2015 season. Like, I really don't remember too much about that season off the top of my head, other than it was Don Orsillo's last year.
Right. And really, I know the team was struggling, ratings were down, but the Orsillo send-off was something that never should have happened. I think we all can agree, not only us three, but everyone that's listened to maybe one inning of Red Sox baseball, whether it is recently in 2021, whether it's in 2001, whether it's in 1901, everyone can agree that Don Orsillo never should have been let go. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, so we don't know all of it. Contract situations, maybe he wanted to move to the West Coast. Who the hell knows? All I know is the Red Sox or Nesson rather should have done everything in their power to keep him as the play-by-play guy for life, and it's very upsetting.
No, and I've heard him talk about it before. He wanted to stay. They just told him that he wasn't going to come back, and they never gave him an actual reason for why they were doing it. They never explained it to the fans. Nesson didn't even really have a true tribute to him at the end of the year. They handled that situation so poorly. The reason, their ratings were down is because the team was just garbage in 2014 and 2015. And they probably did, some focus group that suggested that, the reason why the views were down were because, Don Orsillo wasn't focusing on another 14-2 loss from an atrocious pitching staff and, a lackluster offense. But he was never the problem with Nesson or the Red Sox there. Oh. It's ridiculous.
And it's crazy that they just used him essentially they just used him as a scapegoat, and they were like, well, this is the reason, and we got to get rid of him and replace him with fucking God knows who. Like, I don't even know why. Like, it was so bad. That whole situation was terrible, and it was handled poorly by Nesson. And Nesson's kind of gone downhill since then. They're not really the same as they were, in the early 2000s. And yeah, that whole network's just got a lot of issues, I think, right now. I mean, it's not what it's not what it once was.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't you can't roll out, Justin Masterson, Wade Miley, Rick Porcello,
Clay
fucking and
Buchholz.
Clay Buchholz and Joe Kelly in the rotation, and then go ahead and blame the play-by-play announcer, who was probably the best announcer in the league and a local guy and has been there for 15 years and has a partner who has been there longer than him that is his best friend that will vouch for him. I mean, it's just the thought process is absolutely mind-boggling. And not only that, but it's not like they went and they replaced him with fucking, Vin Scully or, a legendary play-by-play announcer. I mean, his replacement, in my opinion, is horrible. He is not the guy I want calling Red Sox games, and it is a shame to go from Orsillo to O'Brien. Just brutal, in my opinion. Brutal.
So Dave O'Brien was perfect for radio with Joe Castiglione and whoever their third person was. There was no reason to change that either. It was honestly going pretty well. I enjoyed listening to some of the, specifically 2013 games on the radio when I moved up here. And I was even, somewhat optimistic of, Dave O'Brien replacing him. I didn't think it was a bad pick at the time, but it's obviously just aged very poorly. I was even willing to, give him a few years there to kind of get his footing together and everything, and he even had some great teams, but I just feel like there's never going to really be that same connection that, Don had between him and the fans.
No, and honestly, I have given Dave O'Brien a chance. 2016, if you go back on some of those calls, he did have some really good calls. Same thing with 17, and same thing with 18. After 2018, it seemed like after they won the World Series, it just seemed like he checked out. And that his, he had the job, he felt good about the job, like he was the brand. He felt like he didn't really have to work for it anymore. The last straw, it was, and this is not an anti-Dave O'Brien episode. This is just a homage to Don Orsillo. But the last straw was the Devers home run against the Nationals this year. I mean, really, just one of the worst calls you can make in that situation. The biggest spot in the season. The fucking Finnegan's Rainbow call. I mean, that's just.
I still had to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know. I still don't know what that means, but
like a 1960s movie or musical that literally got like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. So who gives a shit? Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense to me still. And I'm not a big Dave O'Brien hater. It could be worse. Like, listen to a lot of. They truly had a terrible tandem in FP Sanchangelo and Bob Carpenter, which made games unlistenable. Dave O'Brien is at least listenable. He's, cheering for the team, but, I look back at some of those 2018 highlights, like you were saying, and he's energetic. He has some actually really good calls on there. And I mean, you just didn't see that in didn't see that at all in 2020. And it almost seems like he forgot how to do it in 2021 when the team is actually good again.
Right.
Could be one of those things, like maybe like LeBeau, like you said, maybe he just got comfortable, and he was just like, okay, it's me. There really isn't anyone else in the pipeline, I guess, to take my position. So this is probably just mine's, for however long,
Yeah.
There wasn't really anyone, challenging him, I guess.
Right. And 2020, I mean, it's so hard. I'm sure it's so hard as an announcer to, get up for those games with no fans, and team was absolutely dreadful. So I don't blame Dave O'Brien for being bad in 2020.
Right.
And no one even probably heard that Dave O'Brien was bad in 2020 because no one fucking watched in 2020. But I do really get on his case about 2021, where it's a grinded out season. There were so many emotions. The COVID, they went through the worst COVID outbreak in Major League Baseball during literally the height of the pennant race, and they fought through it and they battled. And Devers putting them into the playoffs, propelling them into the playoffs on the last series of the year. And you just gotta come up with a better call than that, and more energy, and just that just fucking pisses me off so much.
So I did pull it up. I pulled up Finnegan's Rainbow here. It is a 1968 musical / fantasy, which is 2 hours and 21 minutes, 6.2 on IMDb, and 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, super relevant to a lot of youth watching. Feisty Irishman Finnegan McLaurian and his faithful daughter Sharon, bearing a pot of gold stolen from a leprechaun, settle in the village of Rainbow Valley, Mistucky. And I don't even need to read the rest here. Nobody is watching this movie or has any idea what it's about.
No, dude, why do I think that's the most Dave O'Brien thing to watch? That's him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like him referencing it is so I feel like it's so pretentious. It's I get this reference, and you smooth brains don't. That's no one got that reference, and if you did, you're in a cult. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. No one gets that. You're a loser. Give me a goddamn break. Fucking call it with excitement and passion.
The Venn diagram of Red Sox fans and Finnegan's Rainbow fans is almost two separate circles with one sliver over it, and that one sliver is Dave O'Brien. He is just the only person right there in the middle between the Finnegan Rainbow fan base and the Red Sox fan base.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's so true.
It's two separate circles.
Except they're barely touching. They're just like this.
It's just Dave O'Brien just holding the two circles.
That needs to be a meme.
But I wish it was still Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy. Unfortunately, can't be with us moving forward. But I mean, I feel like Don Orsillo and Eckersley and we all wish Jerry Remy would have just been an unbelievable booth. I don't even care if they would win a single game all year. I would still watch just about every inning because of how entertaining that would just be every single night.
Yep.
Imagine if Dio was here and or this past season where it's Dio, Remy, Eckersley, and it's the team that they had, such a fun team. They have a lot of likable players, Kike Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, all those types of guys, even Kyle Schwarber, towards the end of the year. But they had such likable players. Imagine adding that element or keeping that element in the broadcast booth. That would have been unbelievable. This past year would have been unreal.
And you see it still. And I think that's the part that makes it the worst. It's not he's out doing whatever. Game of the most exciting teams in baseball right now with some of the most exciting players. And everybody out in San Diego absolutely loves him. They love him as much as we do. And I think that's honestly fair to say. And I mean, he's probably, living his best life out there, fishing, cooking, hanging out with friends, raising his family.
Diego.
I mean,
Don Diego.
I'm sure Don never wanted to leave Boston, but this is literally the second best situation for him.
Oh yeah. And I have, the MLB TV. So I sometimes stay up for some of those Padres games just to listen to Dio. And it's great. It's great to listen to him still. It sucks that he's not here, but even still being able to get that, a little taste of his call still, is great.
No, and sometimes you'll get that rare treat of him calling a Red Sox game on TBS like he did last year. And I had to miss that Oakland game because I was visiting family. But literally, even though I knew the Red Sox lost, I watched the entire broadcast again just to hear him call a Red Sox game.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
There was one funny moment here I think we all wanted to touch upon. I think it's all of our favorite moments if I'm correct.
You know what? I think maybe instead of breaking it down, let's just play it because it is by far the best. It is the best moment.
And we'll play it for you right now.
There you go.
But it's an unreal moment though. I love it.
It absolutely is by far the funniest. Just them wheezing and not being able to speak. It's absolutely unbelievable.
It's kind of like the same thing, like going back to the Pizzagate, where it's just like it was another one of those moments where it was like funny in itself, and then they just made it even better.
Yep.
I feel like the biggest difference between that and the Pizzagate is, the Pizzagate you can laugh openly about, you can break it down and everything, but you can't replay that titty grab. you can't keep replaying that.
It's so
I wish
true.
they could. Like, it is only in the minds and of people and on YouTube about just how funny a moment that was and how unbelievably unforgettable it was.
Which if they could talk about it and they could break it down, I think that would have maybe stopped them from like wheezing so much.
Yeah.
Where like if they could just talk about it, but they were trying not to laugh because they didn't want to acknowledge to the viewers like what they saw and they didn't want to talk about it. But you can't talk about it. You can't be like, oh, then there he goes grabbing the boob. Like it is just it is like it's one of the funniest moments in television history. I don't care what anyone says. You watch that and like I'm in full tears, like crying when I watch that.
Markakis.
No, and it's literally their fingers just on the cough button. Like the only time they take it off is like do one fastball down the middle.
Dude, and then like right when it happened, like first, like it happened, then they went back to the plate and they just like paused for a while. Like they didn't say anything. They were like trying to compose themselves.
I only wish we could have seen their faces because I'm sure both of them were beat red. Because when you're trying not to laugh like that, it only makes you laugh even harder. It makes that moment so much more memorable, and it's just great. I mean, and you can tell Don trying to get back to normal. He's like, and he fouls that one off, and then just another 30 seconds of silence. Like he used all of his energy just to compose himself for like 2 seconds of talking.
Yep, absolutely. And he is such a pro too. He's a professional, so like he's still trying to call the game, but he simply just couldn't. And that it's like he just couldn't, literally couldn't.
I mean, kind of going back to it, like imagine how that would go down with like Dave O'Brien, because you wouldn't really get a reaction at all. They wouldn't talk about it at all, obviously, except for maybe Eck. Eck might talk about it.
He would love that. He'd love that.
He would say like, whoa.
This is a family show.
Yeah.
But
Dave O'Brien is Ned Flanders.
No, like he would be appalled by it. He would not think it's funny in the moment. He would be like, "How dare somebody grab a boob during my broadcast?"
Yeah, exactly. He's
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Love that. But
that covers all the things that we wanted to talk about. We have some final thoughts from all of us here. We got some people writing into our Twitter about some of their thoughts. So I guess just open it up a little bit. Is there anything maybe we don't even have to go to a full discussion about that you guys just kind of remember?
I think we were talking about this, Jack, earlier. Right at the end of work there. The one moment that I did love as well was I did like the trio of Remy Orsillo and Gary Streisky. As a sideline reporter, I thought they were great together. I love Gary Streisky, big Streisky guy.
Striker.
But I did love I did love the moment that he was dressed up, I think, in a tuxedo, and like he was looking for this bachelorette party, and then he's like talking to Don Orsillo and Remy are talking to him, and he's like in like right field, I think, and he's like trying to find this party, and Remy's like, "Oh, are you looking for what is that, bachelor party?" And he's like, "No, I'm looking for a bachelorette party." And Don Orsillo and Remy are like, "Whoa, Gary, there you go!" That was funny. But just to touch on Orsillo, obviously we've touched upon it. What a legendary career in Boston. Still going in San Diego as well. Couldn't ask for a better broadcaster for those 15 years. And obviously it sucks that he left, but there's a lot of memories. I mean, like I said, this could have gone on for like 3 or 4 hours with everything that he did in those 15 years. So shout out to Dio, and open invite on the pod.
For sure.
Yes, actually, no, I really do hope that Don Orsillo at least listened to part of this episode here. And even if he didn't, we hope that, really meant a lot to some of you guys here. We actually got a very nice full Apple Notes, or not apology, I'm almost used to saying that, but Apple Notes from Bryn here at BVC Baseball. And this is what they had to say about what Don Orsillo means to them. I discovered him on YouTube while I was searching for sports announcers laughing back in 2018. The high-pitched voice while trying to call the game made me become an instant fan of his. I was bummed that he wasn't working at Nesson anymore, but was relieved and ecstatic that he still announces games for another baseball team. In January 2019, I was hospitalized because of a panic attack that made me want to freeze to death on a park bench. Watching umpire ejecting players and managers for arguing calls helped me sleep that night after 8 hours in the hospital. So basically wanting to see who will get ejected in the 2019 season made me want to live another day. Okay, back to the main topic. So I started watching Padres games that season and record every time Don laughs hysterically so I can watch them when I'm having a bad day. In 2020, during a social hour, my comment made it on a show, which was really cool. But in March 2021, he liked one of my replies to his tweet for the first time. That was amazing. It became twice to a whopping 15 times by that December. That really means a lot to me, because having someone you look up to notice you is really special, and it shows that they care about their fans. On Christmas Day, I got 2 Padres t-shirts that were custom made from Fanatics with Orsillo's name and number 16 on the back, and Padre socks. I decided to take a photo of the Padres merchandise and posted on Twitter telling Don that Christmas was a success. To my surprise, he quote retweeted me. It made my life. I can't describe how happy I was when I got that notification. I'm hoping that I'll get to meet him one day and get to tell him in person how much he means to me, because he means so much to me that I gave my cat the middle name Orsillo after him. So
nice.
That was very touching right there. I mean, that's unbelievable. It gave me chills reading it. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
That's what it's all about.
That is unbelievable. That is, the magnitude of that is just absolutely awesome, and that it really is, like you said, what it's all about. And I think we've all kind of been there with that note, maybe a little like that was more on the extreme, but we all use it as an escape. Like baseball and announcing and everything that we follow about the game is all used as an escape. And when you have something as enjoyable as what he was able to bring us for 15 plus years, and still doing that for people on the West Coast, that is something that needs to be talked about. It deserves whole episodes of podcasts. It deserves tributes. It deserves Hall of Fame inductions. He is a legend, and like I said, we'd love to have Dio on the show. anytime.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've said it probably half a dozen times. We could go all day about this, just about, some of the memories that we've had with him. But that definitely, if you're listening to us, send us a reply on Twitter or Instagram about, what he meant to you, maybe a specific story, kind of like that, maybe a time he interacted with you online. And we would love to hear it. We might share it, a future episode here. It's not like we're not going to talk about Don Orsillo again, especially during this, kind of weird lockout here. So we want to, just thank you guys for listening and, want to continue to, provide some content out there.
Oh, show.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for, thank you for retweeting, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. The followers are still coming in, which is great as well. So we look forward to continuing this, like Jack said, and look forward to a big 2022 season as well.
Yeah, and we'll have more fun things in the off season here.
Right.
There's nothing going on, so we'll have fun with it. I think this was a big one on our checklist, though.
Oh, exactly.
Yep. That'll be good to get this one out of the way. Matt, you got a lot of editing ahead, so
yeah.
A lot of Red Bull in my future.
A lot of Red Bull, yep, and
a lot of Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
actually, Mountain Dew.
This is medical advice again.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, looking forward to it, but I think it's time for me to get to work here.
You bet.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right.
This was a pleasure, gentlemen.
Yes,
enjoy your evening.
You bet.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.